What is up? I put a name on, this is episode 6. I put a name on the YouTube page. I thought real hard about it. I tried a bunch of different workshopping techniques, and I finally came up with the perfect name for this podcast, and I'm going to call it the Austin Stand-Up Comedy Podcast. For those of you that don't know, I'm one of the more original comics in Austin. So if you were wondering, just look to the title, and that's the kind of originality that I'm putting out these days. Episode 6. Let's keep talking about some Austin stand-up comics. Man, I love it. I miss it. I can't wait to get back. I'm excited. I don't know how long lockdown's going to last, but, I'm going to try to be zen about it and roll with the punches, take it day by day, one day at a time, and in the meantime, spread some positivity in the community that I love so much. So, a couple gentlemen I'd like to talk about today. Two of these guys were hosts at the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot open mic / showcase. Chad Fisher and Mikey Swenson. And I'm going to shoehorn DJ Collins in this episode as well because I don't know him that well, but I did meet him at the Whiskey Tango bar, and I had kind of an interesting story, a really short story to share about him. So let's get into it. Let's get going. Well, let's start with Chad Fisher. Chad I've seen a bunch of times. If you haven't seen Chad, he's got a super deep voice. He's a tall dude. A little Dave Chappelle-esque in his delivery at times. I could definitely see the influence there. He's got some pretty shocking material. One of my favorite jokes of his is how he still remains productive when he's smoked crack. Hilarious. I chopped it up with him one night after one of the shows he did with at Halcyon. Me, him, and Andrew Cooksey just kind of BS'd about comedy in the world, and I'm sure Bill Burr was in there. We talked about him for a little bit. He was also he when I did the show at Whiskey Tango, he had hosted. And I remember he had a very fluid set where he was kind of commenting on things that were going on in the room. Just seemed like a good host. I will say one thing, and I saw him perform one time at a venue, and I remember there was a lot of bass on the microphone, and his voice is already bassy. And he did a set, and it still went well, but I think it could have been better had there been less bass in the microphone. And it got me thinking about just different things about stand-up comedy that are so interesting to me, that like a joke can work one night and not work the next night. And also seeing somebody's body language deflate when you've seen them do it and it works, and then you see them do it and it doesn't work. It can really mess with your head. But there are things like that, like too much bass in the mic, or you're too far away from the mic, or somebody drops a glass while you're delivering your punchline, or somebody walks in and commands a bunch of attention as soon as they walk into the bar. There's a lot of things that can affect the flow of jokes. That's why I'm like now realizing the immense value of having places that just do stand-up comedy, because they account for all of that and try to avoid the majority of it, and they keep the lights low and they make sure the exits aren't right by the door. And not everybody can do that, but I am thankful for places that do that, because it makes the show that much better. But yeah, I've seen Chad a handful of times. Good dude. Interesting to watch. So, shouts out to Chad. Mikey Swenson, who I've seen also a bunch of times. He was actually the one who reached out about the gig at Whiskey Tango. So again, super thankful for anybody who gets me a show. Mikey, to me, is one of my favorites in Austin because he reminds me of one of my friends growing up. His delivery, his voice, and his persona, to me, are like if I had to draw a stand-up comedian on paper and then give him a voice, it would be Mikey Swenson. Super clever jokes, like really clever jokes. He has one joke about man, I don't even know if I can talk about it. It's about transgender. It's a transgender joke, but it's also about pedophilia, which two very sensitive subjects to tackle on stage. And when he told the joke that involved both of those, I was simultaneously laughing and shaking my head that I was laughing at something so just wild to hear on stage. But he's also, I've had a couple chats with him randomly, and he's a super supportive person. So, shouts out to Mikey. Yeah, I don't know if I have any other stories about it. I remember one time we talked, I think he might have done that set where the guy was yelling through everybody's jokes. And I talked to Mikey after, and we were just talking about something. And then right after, he goes, there was a guy sitting at the bar with a cowboy hat. And we were talking, and as soon as we were done talking, he goes, all right, I'm going to try to go fight that cowboy. It was a great way to exit the conversation. So shout out to Mikey, and then DJ Collins. If you hear this, DJ, and I got you mixed up with somebody, then let me know. But I think this was you. But I met him at Whiskey Tango. He said he was moving to New York. I don't know if he actually moved or not. I probably should have looked it up before I started talking about him on a podcast. But he has a really not interesting. I just like it. He's got a coolness about him on stage. So I really enjoy that about him when he's delivering jokes. And then I think it was him at Cold Town one time where he was doing jokes and he was trying new stuff, and he tried a new joke and it kind of got like a lackluster response. And he goes, well, let me see what I got. And he pulled out his notepad and he goes, oh, this one's going to work. And that people kind of giggled. And then he did the joke and it did work, absolutely worked. And it seemed like he also did that joke specifically because it catered to that crowd, which I thought was really aware of him. And that's like something that only comes from somebody who's been doing comedy for a while. So I thought that was a really cool thing that I wanted to share about DJ. If you moved to New York, DJ, I hope you're safe up there. I know it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I think that's all I got for this episode. Shouts out to those three gentlemen. I don't know how many times I said shouts out, but I'll try to not say it as much. Thanks to Mark for editing this. If you get around to editing it. For everybody else, thanks for listening. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Stand-up comedy. We will be back soon. Have a good rest of your day.